In 2004, the greatest video game ever made was released. Halo 2 had a perfect campaign, lore, and gameplay, and the multiplayer was considered to be the best around. Believe it or not, Halo 2 was originally conceived to be the end of the Halo games, but difficulty in production caused Bungie to have to pull the trigger early, and while the ending of the game was abrupt, what many would consider to be a cliffhanger, Bungie had a mountain of lore and a mountain of cash to play with. What was originally a negative turned into a positive as game designer Jamie Grissomer states, "They were trying to put 10 pounds of crap into a 5-pound bag." The scope kept elevating to further and further heights as the team crafted this masterpiece, but the game eventually did have to come out. Bungie made $125 million in the first 24 hours of Halo 2's release. Suddenly, Bungie could afford many 10-pound bags, and even if Halo 2 was meant to be the end of Halo, no one in their right mind would have turned down creating a third game after watching their pockets burst with cash. It honestly seemed to be the perfect setup. There were encyclopedias of concepts and ideas left open for Halo 3 to explore, an eye-watering amount of money in the bank, and millions of rabid fans who were eager to give them more. However, with the phenomenal reception to Halo 2 came some challenges for the third game. Mainly, how on earth do you follow up a perfect game? Well, for starters, follow up the same concept as when they began developing Halo 2, right? Bigger and better everything, weapons and vehicles and enemy types, more unique locations and set pieces, mixed with a further expansion into the lore. And don't forget the multiplayer, right?
Were it so easy.
In theory, Halo 3 couldn't have failed as long as they basically just made Halo 2 again with a few targeted improvements. And don't get me wrong, Halo 3 absolutely did not fail. That's not what I'm implying. But I feel like Bungie didn't take full advantage of the alley-oop that Halo 2 so perfectly set up. While Halo 3 is a great game with its own pros and cons, it just doesn't stand tall enough to reach the crown Halo 2 wears. But despite this, there still is an amazing game here with much to talk about and appreciate. So come with me as we wade through a sea of flood-infested enemies in our exploration of Halo 3. Halo 3 has the weakest opening of all three Halo games. Yep, that's right. Y'all probably thought I was going to start off positive and happy like usual, and slowly build to the critical analysis, huh? Well, I gotta keep y'all on y'all's toes. No, but for real, we open on a monologue presented by Cortana as Master Chief plummets to Earth after hitching a ride on the Forerunner Dreadnought, in pursuit of the Prophet of Truth. It's not a bad opening, as it puts control of the Chief immediately into the player's hands, something I praised about Halo Combat Evolved. However, the tone is strange, as the devs felt the need to do a fake out with the death of Master Chief. They go through this whole rigmarole, Johnson even pronouncing him deceased, yet the Chief just wakes up? Was the Chief just making some sick joke or something? Then, and my biggest beef with this intro, the Arbiter just creeping up in camo for no reason, and when Johnson interrupts Chief about to assassinate Arbiter, all that the Chief gets told is,
Wait! The Arbiter's with us! Come on now. We've got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill each other.
like, what? First off, what are we doing here? This feels like a huge waste of time. This whole entire being in the jungle and Chief playing his practical joke thing with Cortana's strange monologue just it seems like a waste of development resources. I'm in no way a good writer or anything, but I feel like even I could have come up with a better opening. For example, I feel a stronger opening would have been picking up immediately after the second game. Arbiter is still in the control room of Delta Halo, and Chief has boarded the Dreadnought. The first chapter or tutorial could have followed Arbiter regain the glory of his namesake as he rallies his elite brothers under his banner and enact a ceasefire with the humans, all while fighting for a way to find transport back to Earth to kill the Grand Deceiver, the Prophet of Truth. That would have kept the narrative rolling and reintroduced us to the broader themes of the second game. After arriving on Earth, Arbiter could have found the planet under full-scale siege, the defense being led by the Chief himself if he wouldn't have fallen or jumped from the dreadnought. Then, the Arbiter could have had a battle or something with the Chief, trying to convince him of the ceasefire, all while the Prophet opens the portal and the flood into Earth. The humans and elites joining together should have been explored far more than a couple sentences and maybe a tiny cutscene or two. This is a pivotal shift in the storyline. The deadliest enemy that the humans have ever faced have defected from their religious stranglehold and are offering a truce to defeat the greater threat. And all we get is a mission in Halo 2 and a few lines of dialogue in Halo 3. Unfortunately, there's a pretty serious reason as to why this intro isn't up to par with its older brothers, and that's because Bungie's co-founder Jason Jones left the project with no leadership or direction, and the story writer Joseph Staten left as well, basically leaving the other staff to write the game for him. Obviously, it's hard to write something if the staff isn't trained to handle it, so as we journey through Halo 3, you'll notice the writing is nowhere near as exciting or deep as the second. Some concepts like the ceasefire being totally hopped over, and the plot kind of meandering a bit. What Halo 3 lacks in writing, it definitely makes up for in gameplay. That's apparent as soon as Halo 3 gives you control of the Chief. Johnson gives us our orders to make our way back to a stronghold that Miranda and Lord Hood have established to come up with a plan attack against Truth. Quick sidebar here, I have 2 other Halo videos going over previously established characters and concepts, so if you're wanting a reminder about any of the lore or characters, most likely I go over the broad strokes in those 2, so check them out after this one. On our way to the stronghold, we traverse through a jungle filled to the brim with our most hated monkeys, the Brutes. In the last game, the Brutes nefariously caused the elites to be cast from the Covenant, subsequently setting the Arbiter on a path towards freedom and revenge against the Prophet of Truth, who uses the Brutes as his meat shields. While I'm extremely disappointed that the plot never truly explores the newfound independence of the elites, it is nice hearing the Arbiter scream at the Brutes and Grunts and others in combat, trying to quickly tell them how the Prophets are liars and that they're being deceived. It almost sounds as if the Arbiter wants the enemies he's fighting to come to their senses or something, and it's a nice touch. Another nice touch is how he will use his invincibility on his own. I don't know if this is scripted or not, but I was kind of hyped watching the Arbiter disappear before launching an assault on the Brutes in this scenic river. I want to talk about the gunplay and mechanics, but first, let's continue with the plot. On our jaunt through the jungle, Johnson commands the team to split up, meaning we get our alone time with the Arbiter. Is there any banter or scene between these two suggesting Chief's distrust in Arbiter, or any deep-rooted hatred between the two despite their newfound co-worker status? Nope, nothing. Well anyways, later Johnson shows up with the Pelicans but ends up getting shot down. This scene begins the attempt to show off cinematic and scripted set pieces, and I gotta say, some of these are nice. There's a few later pieces that live on in my head, even all the way back from 07, and we will talk about them as we come across them. For now, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. After rescuing our boyfriend from his containment, we make it back to the Crow's Nest, the UNSC fortress mentioned earlier. There, Miranda gives us an exposition dump about the current state of the world. Truth has landed in East Africa. He annihilated the city of New Mombasa, and instead of burning the rest of the earth, he has chosen instead to begin digging. Buried underneath the city lies the portal to a Forerunner installation called the Ark. We will get to the Ark when we step foot there, but first I gotta talk about Miranda. In my previous video, I mentioned that Miranda doesn't quite live up to her father's prowess as an admiral and a leader. I still believe that to be true, but Bungie made a serious attempt to make her more like her father in this Halo. She's seen on the ground with her men in combat, tactically commanding the battlefield, including us, Master Chief. They almost succeeded at making me like her more until she delivers the cringiest line in all of Halo.
Ma'am, squad leaders are requesting a rally point. Where should they go?
To war.
After throwing up in my mouth a little bit, it's our job to evacuate the wounded soldiers and fend off a brute invasion. And I gotta say, getting a little bored of the brutes already. Maybe it's just me, but the elites were far more interesting with their different colors and armors, whereas the brutes are just different shades of monkey with armor on its body. They have this gimmick where if you cross a damage threshold, then they go berserk and rush you. It's interesting and creates some dynamic gameplay during combat, but ultimately, you'll mainly be fighting brutes, grunts, and jackals with the occasional hunter team thrown in there for the first half of the game. Now the guns. Man, they are as fun as ever. With the introduction of new brute-centric weapons and vehicles, as well as the addition of deployable equipment, the combat feels fresh and fun compared to its older brothers. For example, the gravity hammer is the brute answer to the energy sword, and this hulking thing feels humorous to hit hostiles' heads with. Inside of the crow's nest, we get plenty of time to get familiar with the brute weapons and some of the equipment. For example, the gravity lift allows us to quickly get to higher locations to take advantage of the emphasized verticality. A deployable shield gives us a safe space to catch our breath and reload, and the bubble shield turns the battlefield into a WWE Hell in a Cell match. Back to the plot. We deal with the invasion by just blowing up our base as soon as everyone is evacuated, and we are introduced to our old lover, the Warthog. As always, the vehicles are exemplary. The Warthog feels nice, and a full vehicle of blabbering Marines creates an excellent sense of camaraderie. This level gives us plenty of room to run around with the Warthog, and gives us plenty of enemies to shoot and run over. Our objective now becomes a seek and destroy mission, as we hunt down hostile anti-air units in order to open a hole for Lord Hood's fleet to bombard the Forerunner Dreadnought. This mission involves a mixture of boots on the ground combat, vehicle combat, and even has us fighting off against the imposing Scarab. I mentioned in my Halo 2 video that the Halo games have never really had decent boss fights, but in Halo 2 they tried. In Halo 3, they didn't. The first Scarab encounter feels dramatic. All of us were scurrying around on four-wheelers with rocket launchers trying to take down the beast. The tactic is super simple. Shoot the joint till it falls down, jump on it, and blow up a glowing weak point, then run away. There are a couple ways to skip the breaking the legs part, but for the most part, that's all the fight consists of. The explosion is glorious, and if this was a tough fight for you, then I feel watching the explosion is gratifying in a way that's hard to explain. The other Scarab fights are just the exact same thing though. Break the legs, board, then blow up. Break the legs, board, then blow up. I feel like Bungie missed the opportunity to make subsequent Scarab fights unique and creative. Maybe a version similar to the Stealth Phantoms perhaps, that can cloak itself and jump away, and you gotta dodge lasers till it overloads and stuns itself, and that's your opportunity to get on board. Just spitballing here, but there are so much more creative encounters that could have been employed. We failed to stop Truth from opening the portal to the Ark, but the cutscene that plays is incredible. As the music changes over to that of a hopeful and victorious motif, Lord Hood's bombing run is a powerful sight. Even though we don't succeed at killing Truth, there's no doubt that nothing can sour the mood of forcing Truth off our planet.
What did Truth just do? Did he activate the rings?
No, sir. But he certainly did something.
Miranda, please stop. As if Miranda's piss-poor one-liners were bad enough, a capital ship full of flood has landed on Earth. So yeah, mood officially soured. Well, guess what? Our officially insane blue girlfriend is on that ship too, so the mood is neutral now, I suppose. So now we delve into the corrupted ship and find not Cortana, but the Oracle, also known as 343 Guilty Spark. He has a message from Cortana saying that the Gravemind from Halo 2 has Earth set as its next target, and says there is a solution on the other side of the portal. The elite commander sees fit to nuke half the African continent in order to quell this first little flood invasion, but after a tense negotiation, the elites and Miranda's ship journey through the portal to find Cortana's solution, while Lord Hood stays behind to defend Earth from the imminent flood invasion. Personally, I feel like we should have gone through the portal much earlier in the story because guess what? We are more than halfway through the game now. That's right, there are only 10 story missions in Halo 3 and we just crossed over into the 7th. So far in the plot, Earth suffered a small invasion force aiming at the portal to the Ark, we fought off an ambush at the Crow's Nest and blew up some anti-air tanks. The Prophet of Truth went through a portal and Guilty Spark landed a ship full of flood on Earth, a threat that was quickly contained. I know there's a lot to game development, but I would have been more happy with the pace of things if the game was twice as long as it is. It really feels like as soon as the game finds its feet and is getting interesting, the game is over. Honestly, the event so far could have been a prologue and a level or two. Honestly, the entire first mission could have been cut out. Just have Chief wake up at the crow's nest under invasion, a la Mass Effect 2 style. Then, as the combat is swirling around him, he then discovers the plot, and that the elites and humans have allied naturally as you progress through the level. This to me is the greatest sin of Halo 3, and that's the writing is so weak compared to its brothers. You know what Halo 3 does right though? The cutscene where we discover the Ark. Exiting the portal and immediately being under Covenant fire and having to escape to the Ark's surface reminds me a lot of Combat Evolved's opening. We watch the Pelicans getting birthed from the Forward Unto Dawn and make a beeline for the Ark as the music begins swelling. The mission that follows is awesome as Halo 3 lets go of the reins and really opens the sandbox up to the player experimentation and freedom. There's an incredible set piece as you clear a landing zone for the Dawn, and instead of a cutscene, the game in real time lets you watch Miranda pilot the ship pretty much on top of you. And it's so awe-inspiring watching this hulking massive machinery fly in and stop right on top of you. This kicks off the best moment of the game. Miranda drops off a ton of Marines and 4 Scorpion battle tanks. The game even gives you a Warthog if, for any reason, you choose not to take the Scorpion, further emphasizing player freedom. Now we drive our tank, followed by 3 other tanks into the heart of enemy territory to get through a wall that's in our way. This moment where you give your Marines a bridge to cross and you watch the column of tanks and Warthogs drive past you is dope. There's nothing else to say, just pure serotonin. Or dopamine? I don't remember which is the happy chemical. After fighting a Scarab, we play through a section that feels very similar to Combat Evolved. The doors and walls and architecture feel nostalgic, and it makes sense because we're in another Forerunner cartographer complex. Inside of the cartographer isn't too interesting aside from the nostalgia. However, at the end of it, we discover where Truth is. He's holed up in a shield doing who knows what. Again, another bit of referencing Combat Evolved is this beach invasion similar to the original cartographer mission, but this time flanked with friendly elite phantoms. Kind of a cool scene showing how far the series and story have come. See, I knew Halo 3 was capable of some good writing. After we do our part by destroying one shield generator, we gotta go help Johnson take his down. To do so, we fly the Hornet, an aerial vehicle to make our way over there. I really like this part. Getting a bird's eye view of the oh so important Pelicans and Phantoms doing combat, and actually letting us be able to destroy hostile Phantoms is a power trip. I know it sounds weird, but the Phantoms play such a large role in offense towards the player that being in the skies with them, escorting friendly ones and destroying the enemy's Phantoms, alongside the symbol of hope that is the Pelican, just stirs this warm feeling in my stomach. Like, I'm so deep into the lore and symbolism that this moment feels like I'm integrating with the game. I love it. If anyone else feels this way, let me know in the comments below. After hitting the like and subscribe buttons, after deactivating the shield, we are shown the Citadel where Truth is trying to fire the rings from. Then, the city of High Charity arrives, hijacked by the Gravemind. And at first I was confused because wasn't the Gravemind headed for Earth? Then I remember that the Gravemind had assimilated with the other prophets, and also have been torturing Cortana for the last 2 weeks for information. So when he arrived on Earth and saw the big portal to the place where the kill all the flood button resides, he probably just went through it too. We push into the Citadel where a captured Johnson is being gently convinced to push the button to activate the Halos. Yeah, I can't remember if I mentioned, but only humans can utilize Forerunner technology, unless of course the plot demands it, i.e. Truth being able to pilot the Dreadnought for some reason. So the brutes are trying to get Johnson to press it, but before they can, Miranda, all by herself, shows up and crashes a Pelican into the room in an attempt to stop this from happening. Why didn't she pick up any Marines? Why didn't she use the weapons on the Pelican to shoot through the glass and mow down the few brutes in Truth? Heck, she was even shown to have the wisdom to even kill Johnson so as to not let Truth win, so just turn him into paste too. Unfortunately, none of that makes any more sense than her crashing the Pelican and wandering out into incoming fire while making no attempt to utilize cover or any of the cool equipment Halo 3 introduced. They could have had a cool moment where Miranda still crashes the Pelican like an idiot, but throws out a bubble shield to house Johnson and Miranda while they held their ground to give Chief and Arbiter enough time to show up. Nope, instead Miranda dies. Senselessly. And once again, Truth still gets his way by beginning the firing process of all the Halo rings. Something interesting happens here though. The Grave Mind speaks to us, saying we shall work together to storm the console to turn off the rings together. You know the whole enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing. I won't lie, this is perfect. At first I wanted to have more friendly Flood encounters, but the couple minutes we get make sense. The Flood is chaotically and radically evil, but intelligent. By all accounts, we got lucky just getting the few minutes of ceasefire till we got to the console. At the console, we have an injured Johnson, dead Miranda, and Truth succumbing to Flood. The Arbiter finally gets his revenge as he silences Truth once and for all, and Master Chief deactivates the Halos. Arbiter's victory scream and this knowing look between him and the Chief is just straight up gangster. Of course, now the Gravemind allowed us to kill his biggest threat, which promotes us to the position of biggest threat. That means it's time for us to die. After fighting through the Flood and falling down a trash chute or something, a vision of Cortana appears to Chief and shows him the way to her solution for the Flood. A new Halo being built to replace the one Chief destroyed. The heart of the Flood infestation sits right next to the weapon designed to kill them, and it's our mission to fire this ring. For once, we are going to allow it to happen, and since the Ark sits so far away from the human galaxy, it's safe to fire this one. But first, quick detour to tickle the inside of the Gravemind and save Cortana. I played a few missions with Swanky Pants, and I want to mention how cool it is that there are alternative cutscenes, whether you are playing co-op or not. Like this Banshee ride into High Charity displays the co-op team if you have one. Neat little touch. I'm not gonna lie, the mission into High Charity is pretty uneventful from a narrative standpoint, and the tight corridors and nonsensical layout, although thematically correct and appreciated, leave no hope of a vehicle on this mission. And it has a pretty egregious amount of backtracking. I don't know if this is a reference to all the library missions of the games prior, or if they were just running out of time and decided to stick you in a shooting gallery for a while. At the end of the mission we find her, Cortana, who's lost hope and says she's broken and that Chief is too late. Of course, Suave Chief has to only say one sentence to get her back to normal. She also reveals that she has the activation index from the first ring, which, guess what? That ring that's being constructed outside is an exact replica of the one we destroyed already. So we have our bomb and we have the fuse. Now it's time to light it and get on out of here. We fight to the control room of the new Halo, and Johnson joins us instead of waiting in the frigate for no reason, leading to another pointless death. Guilty Spark finds out our plan, and obviously he can't allow us to fire the ring and destroy the Ark. I'm a Johnson fanboy. If I liked tattoos, I would get a tattoo of him saying, "I know what the ladies like," and he is in my top 5 favorite characters of all time. He didn't deserve this death. Getting shot in the back by a pissy robot isn't the heroic end he's earned. The only purpose he serves in any of this section of the game is for there to be a reason why a warthog waits outside. A completely wasted end, when he just as easily could have gotten injured instead of dying, and now the stakes are raised as Arbiter and Chief rescue a dying Johnson and get to the dawn fast enough to survive the explosion. That even would have supplemented the game's themes set up by the Crow's Nest. That even the injured and maimed lives have value, even if only for the fact they're human and therefore deserve life and to be rescued like all the others. No, he gets shot in the back, gets a cool one-liner, and then dies. Absolutely a waste. This fight with Guilty Spark is really the only boss fight in the game, and funny enough, after he turns on you, so do your equipment drones. I threw an equipment drone down to help me defend previously in the mission, and after the boss fight, that drone was hostile. Funny little detail I thought I'd share. The subsequent driving to the dawn as the ring explodes around us is fun at first. And with friends, it's probably a mix of humorous as you make wrong turns to your death and flip the warthog over and over, but alone this moment drags on a bit too long and loses some of the epicness the longer it goes. Especially when you see the repeated layouts you're driving through, and if you're like me, you'll wipe out or fall off one too many times to be funny anymore. But the last moment where you jump the chasm and land in the back of the Dawn is intense, and the following cutscene, watching the Chief accept he's done all he can and that he's either gonna live or die, so he may as well relax, represents Chief's ability to remain calm under pressure. Seeing him physically de-stress as a literal galaxy-destroying nuke has exploded behind him always makes me laugh. The first half of the epilogue is a memorial to the War of the Galaxy, those that died trying to stop the threat of the Prophets and the Covenant. The Arbiter and Lord Hood pay their respects to a presumably dead Chief. Afterwards, Arbiter vows to reclaim the elite homeworld, kind of saying there's more to explore in the Halo universe post-Gravemind, and the second half of the epilogue confirms that, as Master Chief and Cortana drift in space. Chief enters cryosleep, and the game ends. Bungie couldn't allow the idea of not having the Chief at the ready to deploy for a sequel or a spinoff, so they literally put the character on ice for future use. We'll get back to that later. All in all, the story of Halo 3 pales in comparison to Combat Evolved and Halo 2. It felt rushed and meandered far too long for the first half of the game. But everyone besides the writing staff were firing on all cylinders. The art direction was immaculate, the gunplay felt good even though some of the guns didn't quite pack as much of a bang as others. And the music was literally perfect, no notes. There's one other thing that Halo 3 supposedly did better than the previous two games in the franchise. That being the multiplayer. To some, the campaign is the only part of a Halo game that interests them. To others, the campaign is a waste of time, and the multiplayer is the real Halo 3. Most fall in the middle, and I've met people on all sides of that spectrum. I've heard stories of friendships and bonds that develop almost solely on Halo multiplayer. Some people tell me that getting together with a group of friends and eating Doritos and drinking Mountain Dew while playing Slayer or Capture the Flag is some of the most enjoyable ways to spend their evenings. If you can't tell by my wording, I do not fall into that category. I'm not going to go on a long rant about how I had no friends and living in a religious household made it tough to play these games online, mainly because I think I already did in a previous video, but the fact of the matter is, I didn't take part in the golden age of Halo multiplayer. I was far more interested in Elder Scrolls or Age of Empires or Civilization to take the time to generate a friend group and get together to play multiplayer Halo against people. The true magic for me with the Halo multiplayer is the co-op campaign. I love the campaigns so much that jumping on with my dad or more recently my brother to wipe some enemies off the map and watch a fun story or do stupid things like try to get vehicles to go places they're not supposed to go was a way more enjoyable way to spend my Halo time on. Why would I skip that and go get mad and frustrated on competitive games? Maybe I'm the only one who felt that way. If I'm not, then let me know in the comments. This time around though, I said I was going to give the competitive multiplayer a fair shake, and I have to say, I'm still not feeling it. I won't count any points off of Halo 3 because this part is a Master Chief Collection problem, but browsing the playlist for multiplayer is quite the puzzle. There's so many game modes, some of which are only slight variations of each other, that the game wants you to manually tell it what you want. There's very little in the way of, just put me on a populated server and randomize the game modes and sizes. It wants you to select everything manually, and it's overwhelming for a new player to competitive Halo. And that's assuming you even have the right multiplayer installed. Again, that's not really a Halo 3 thing as much as it is the launcher. Also, FYI, I'm only playing Halo 3 multiplayer so I could pretend it's 07 again for this review. Eventually I kinda figured it out, and the first game mode I played was this mode where a bomb spawns in the middle of the map and you have to get that bomb to the enemy's base. Pretty simple, right? Well, this game mode felt like it took over 20 minutes to complete a single game where literally neither team scored a point. The moment you pick the bomb up, every enemy just swarms you. So the idea was like attrition, sort of, where your team just has to throw enough bodies at the bomb to eventually get it over to the spot to score a point. Problem is, the bomb just kept respawning in the middle of the map. We'd get it like 20 yards away from scoring a point, and the bomb would just randomly reset. So it was minutes of just running after the bomb, dying over and over, and neither team made a single point. It was boring. There was no music, and the only people talking were just saying how much everyone sucks, and it was a miserable waste of time for me. So I tried the same game mode again, and there were a couple of cool moments, like one where my team actually scored a goal, but ultimately it was the same. Even put us on the same map. After that, I played a few games of Big Team Slayer, and I definitely enjoyed the game mode far more, but after the first few minutes, it also got stale. Again, there was no music or anything, no one was talking, the matches felt like they go on a bit longer than they should. I also don't understand why you start off with the most boring weapons with no way to really change what you spawn in with. You start off with the battle rifle, which is this boring burst rifle that feels like you're gently caressing your enemies instead of doing any damage. I understand the idea is that everyone is supposed to start off on equal footing and find weapons scattered throughout the map, but you don't get much ammo for them, and you usually don't get to live long enough to use them much. There's no classes or nothing to offer any semblance of strategy or tactics. It's just what you find on the ground and hope you get the situation right to be able to take advantage of whatever you find. I can see that with some like-minded friends and a Discord chat, teaming up after a work day or something, this game mode can be fun. To those of you who absolutely love the competitive multiplayer, let me know why in the comments below. What makes Halo 3 multiplayer special to you? I won't lie, I'm not built to be able to enjoy most multiplayer experiences, let alone one that has this much history behind it. I find very little joy in Halo 3's competitive multiplayer, and if you do, then I'm happy for you, and I'm glad that it's there for you to enjoy. Part of me wishes the Chief died at the end of Halo 3. A story needs finality, and a universe as deep as the Halo franchise has an insane amount of storytelling potential. Even ideas that don't involve Chief. It's a shame that his corpse has been puppeteered around since 2007. The impact of the first two games on me was immense. You know the meme with the guy downloading a new personality after watching a movie? That was me for those two games. Halo 3's weaker story and my lack of enjoyment of the competitive multiplayer made Halo 3 pretty forgettable, but I'm glad I took the time to sit down and play it again. If nothing else but to remind me of the masterpiece that is Halo 2. Aside from the story and the length of the game, Halo 3 was a formidable sequel and earned its place in the OG trilogy, and hearing people's stories and life experiences with this game does make me happy for them, and I'm glad that this game exists. What's your experience with Halo 3? Let me know in the comments down below. Should I review the spin-offs such as ODST and Halo Wars? Also let me know down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Ropeburn, signing out, sort of. I'm keeping the outro short because I have a big plan with all my Halo videos, and a little bit of house cleaning here. Thank you for being patient with this video. I went on vacation in the middle of making this, and I really wanted to make this one right, so I took my time with it. I hope you liked it. In other news, I have an X account now, please go follow me there. I'll leave a link in the description. Also, I'm going to be live streaming more often come November, and I hope to be able to actually schedule those here on YouTube. So if live streaming is your thing, then please subscribe because there's going to be plenty of that starting at the end of this year and continuing on to the next. I took a poll of what game I should stream next between Dark Souls 3 and the Mass Effect trilogy, and it was a perfect split down the middle. So if you made it this far into the video, now is the time for a tiebreaker in the comments down below. Alright, for real this time, Ropeburn, out.